young and very dynamic personality, and a leading entrepreneur and very good hospitality friend, Mr. Suryaveer Singh with us. When we talk about Mr. Suryaveer Singh, he has completed hotel management in Swiss Hospitality International Management School, Switzerland in 2011, and he worked in Four Seasons hotels in India and abroad. So presently, he is working. He is the executive director in Trans Hotels and Resorts.
Yes.
So, on behalf of entire IIHM Hyderabad fraternity, Mr. Surya Singh, I welcome you to this the great, amazing, and wonderful session called Hospitality Talk with. And thank you for joining with us today, taking your time. Over to you, sir. A few words.
Yes. Thank you so much. Great to be there. Just one little correction. So I went to hotel school in Switzerland. I didn't go to SHIM, Swiss Hospitality. I went to École Hôtelière Lausanne. It was one of the first hotel schools in the world. It was founded in 1893. And from there onwards, yes. So I graduated in 2011, and yes, my journey is so far is I would say it started off very focused on hospitality, on operations. I got into the F&B background with Four Seasons. I was recruited out of college over there. I worked with them in Four Seasons Bangkok, and then after that went to Four Seasons Los Angeles in Beverly, Wilshire. After that, went to Bali as a sommelier, wine sommelier, and was a restaurant manager as well. And in 2015 onwards, with all what was happening, there was a little moment in my life where I kind of felt like, there is something more to life than just going through the whole hierarchy with the hospitality industry. I would also like to, all the knowledge which is gained, would also like to bring it to India. So that was a very, very strong motivating factor for me, was to somehow come back to India and um, try and show whatever we've learned, especially in the wine industry and hospitality as well. So my father, who used to work with Taj Hotels, Veer Vijay Singh, alongside with him, we said, okay, you know what? Let's try and focus something. Let's see where is there a gap in the market. So one thing which we noticed was a lot of the hotel management companies in India were mainly five-star centric. The Oberois, the Tajes, the Four Seasons, the Marriotts, all were very five-star focused. And we said, why don't we get the same sort of the niche focus which management companies bring to the more four-star, three-star segment? So that became our main focus, and yeah, we've been doing that ever since. We currently have two projects in Hyderabad. We have three more in the pipeline. We do a lot of hotel consultancies as well. Besides that, I also run the Hyderabad Wine Society as well, because I have this wine passion. And yeah, ever since then, just been very focused on spreading the word of hospitality and also of wine.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction.
Hmm.
Yes, you are you are such a role model for all the young students. We have a students pan India across, and you are the total inspiration. Seeing your profile and your journey,
Hmm.
and yes, you are the is a well-renowned sommelier, wine sommelier also. So thank you for taking your time and sharing your journey with us today.
Hmm.
And before we have few questions to ask you in front of you, and what you suggest about the wine industry, because we have a students in various major departments who are performing. And how about the wine industry? How are you suggesting them, and how you guide them to choose wine industry? Over to you, sir.
Okay, so definitely the wine industry in India is in its very nascent stages, I mean, very early stages right now. 5 years ago in 2015, it was pretty much dead. The only thing which was available was Jacob's Creek and very low quality wine. The storage conditions, the rules, we have the highest taxes in the world, more than non-drinking countries also, like Islamic countries also. We have higher taxes than them. Then we have state taxes and many laws, and the problem with that for the wine industry is that wine is a very sensitive liquid. If you store it in the wrong condition, if it's exposed to too much sunlight, it can really, if it's not drunk in the correct glassware, if it's served at the wrong temperature, you will not get the whole point of what wine is and why are so many people gaga about wine. So, but if you ever want to really make it, you have to go and attack certain markets which have not been tapped yet. A lot of people try and just go into this more safer option. If you don't take a risk, you will never really see the main benefits. Right now in the wine industry, when we started in 2017, when we started the Hyderabad Wine Society, there were a lot of people who said, no one's going to come. Who's going to spend 3,000 rupees to come for a wine dinner? No one, only people will come for free dinners. All these things I heard, but it was just passion. So it's very, very like, a lot of people say this, but it's true. If you have a passion, stick with it and money will come. Money will come if you do a good job and you connect with the guest. And you have to always see, is the guest appreciating this? And so what we noticed in the beginning was, I'll just give you a little backstory with the Hyderabad Wine Society. Our first event was not a wine dinner. It was just 8 wines being served, and we thought it'd be a 1 hour course. It turned out to be a 4 hour course, and it went well into dinner time. So we saw, okay, a lot of people going hungry. So we said, okay, you know what? Let's see what can we do. And we said, okay, we don't want to make it too educative the experience. We want to make this more about people meeting, coming with their friends, and having good wine. Some people will want to learn, some people don't want to learn. So you can't force it on people. But definitely what I've seen in the wine industry is the numbers are there. India, with we have a consumer economy, 1.3 billion people. You can come up with, that's the beauty of living in India. You can come up with a very ridiculous idea also, and there will be at least 10 million people willing to be your customers. So there is no problem in getting customers. It is all up to our entrepreneurs to find a passion, dedicate a solid 5 years at least on mastering that passion, so, and learning about it. So if you like wine, you have to get more into wine, taste about wine, let go of all your ego and keep on learning, do all these exams. It's a wonderful industry, the wine industry. There's so much you learn about geography, history, art, culture, and food when you get into the wine industry. It's really something which it can bear a lot of benefits. And there's so many people who've gone on to become master sommeliers, and they've had a very good livelihood, money wise and also profession wise. So I can definitely recommend that within 4 or 5 years, you will see India's wine bug really blooming. You will see a lot of wine clubs everywhere. You'll see a lot of heavy new wine labels coming up everywhere. And by in 5 years later, it might be a little too late. So if someone wants to really get into it, now's a good time.
Yes, thank you so much, Mrs. Singh. And adding to the same question, uh, we have a students, many who are interested to become a wine sommelier. So what are the, as from your point of view, what are the basic attributes the student should have to become a wine sommelier? And what would be their job opportunities, the scope, either in India or in abroad? Over to you, sir.
Yeah, very nice question. It's a very common question also asked. You don't really need to be a very, very smart person, or you don't need to be gifted with any talent. Um, it's more like solving a mystery when you're tasting wine, honestly. Um, there's a person over here, Supriyo, he comes to our wine dinner, he's live right now as well. So he also knows that when I try and explain it to people who are well into hotel industry, they kind of feel like, what is this wine, and what am I smelling? I'm just smelling grapes. In the beginning, it looks very, very daunting for everyone. I was not the best student in school. I was a 60% student, but the wine bug got to me. And then just a few tricks which was taught to me by a sommelier I knew at that time, Dana Patrick. She told me that, okay, just take this wine and swallow it. And do you feel more on your cheeks or on your tongue? I said, oh, I feel it more on my cheeks. Oh, if it's cheeks, then it's more New World. It's from there. So just that one trick she told me got me very interested. I'm like, okay, so whenever I tasted wine around friends, I said, oh, I taste more on my cheeks, probably from New World. New World meaning not Europe. And people are impressed. So then I went more and more deeper into it. And once you get more into it, then you start learning. And it's not that difficult, wine industry. It's really, really easy. So it's just, you have to be a little bit crack in the head to really go hardcore and dedicated. And if you really truly like something, the time will fly. The time will absolutely fly. I had no problem spending thousands of dollars on just buying bottles of wine and tasting them. So there is no major attribute you should have. Is the passion which you need to have. So if you go online, there are a lot of sommelier courses right now. WSET is the most popular one in India right now. WSET. They have some levels. There's the Court of Master Sommeliers with who I got my credentials with. The Court of Master Sommeliers as well. They're now doing some exams in India as well. Once you get an accreditation from there, you can also, it's not compulsory. Again, to work in a hotel as a sommelier, it's not necessary. It's a nice little pin which you can show that saying, okay, I've passed such and such exam. A sommelier still has to prove himself in the restaurant, showing wine sales, because there are a lot of people who just try and pass some exam and say, I'm a sommelier, I'm the best sommelier in India, but that's not how it is. I don't call myself a sommelier right now because I'm not working in a restaurant. A sommelier is someone who works in a restaurant, is handling the wine, is pushing wine sales, is designing the menu, and is doing pairings, is talking to the customers. That's the whole point, you know. And when you get these little victories, it really can mean a lot. And your industry, see, with India, there's so many more hotels coming up. Back in 2010, India had around 1 lakh rooms. The whole of India had just 1 lakh rooms. It was lesser than the city of New York. Today, we're far past that. Marriott, Radisson, all these big companies are coming into India. And when they come in, they of course want wine sales to go. There are certain restaurants where you have an entire kitchen brigade, an entire service staff, but one sommelier will get you 45%, sometimes 55% of your restaurant revenue comes from just wine. So it is definitely a high profit margin industry, and the bigger more of these companies come. And if you have this specified sort of things, it's not like if you just have a sommelier degree that you only know about wine. You know, you can also get into cocktails, and you can also be a restaurant manager. So if you're working in a restaurant which is not very wine centric, doesn't mean you can't wait tables or handle staff. It's a wonderful medal to have, and especially in today's day and age where there's so much competition, having these one or two small medals with you can really take you a long way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for sharing such a knowledge and wisdom. And of course, IHM is one of the application provider for WSET. We do conduct WSET courses, and many of our students have completed WSET level 1 and level 2 as well.
Right.
So let me go into deeper. That's the question. What would be the future of Indian wine industry? India cannot be, as of now, India is not the best competitor among the world wines.
Hmm.
So, what is in your vision? What is in your point of view as a sommelier?
Hmm.
How do you judge Indian wine industry in future? So, what are the perspectives and how the Indian wine industry would be? Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So now this is a very interesting question because the wine industry in India now, the quality of the grape does not just come on hard work. It also comes on quality of your climate, the terroir we call it. It's your soil, your climate, the work put in by the smart people who are helping in deciding what grape when to grow where. All of that is a little bit geography centric as well. You can buy the best consultants, but if you had a bad harvest, if it was raining too much, uh, or if it was too dry, or if the soil wasn't too good, it won't really help. So most of the best wines are grown on a certain latitude, and most of Europe comes under that, and California as well, and then the southern hemisphere also comes, because you need an ideal temperature of 18 degrees, 17 degrees as well. India does have certain pockets of it. We don't have vast pockets. The problem with India is we have very high humidity, and certain areas are pretty they get a lot of rainfall as well. They're not you need a lot of places, like if you see in California, even though it's got good weather, it doesn't rain that much. They say in California it rains like 5 days a year. I've lived there, so it's really true. So that's the problem. So now getting to the whole point of it, Indian wines before was usually just Sula, Fratelli was running the business. But again, they also had to cut corners. They before just said, okay, people are not understanding wine, they're not appreciating our wine. So what do? We make it sweet. So they threw in a lot of sugar and they made it very sweet. That was in the 90s. Now with the 2000s and 2010s coming around, uh, wine industry in India has definitely improved. Some very good wines have come out. Krisma is one of the wines from Hyderabad. The owners are from Hyderabad. The wine grows in Karnataka, but they have some outstanding wines. If you put one of their Cabernet Sauvignons in a blind tasting competition, I would probably confuse it for a Napa Valley high-end wine. So definitely, we have some very good wine potential coming out over there. But again, this comes with trial and error. The beauty of why France is ahead is because France and Italy, these countries have over a millennium of experience, 2 millenniums of experience of just growing and understanding which particular soil to grow, which particular grape to grow, what particular barrels to use. All of that came through generations and generations. That's why they have that advantage. Indian wine is improving. The best part is that because the government is also very strict on imports, so people who like wine still want to buy a bottle below 1500 rupees. So that's where Indian wines will come in, and they are improving their game. What we need to do is, of course, we need to have better laws for our storage of wine. So in the depots, especially in Telangana, we all our wine goes in the depots. Depots are not really temperature controlled, so that is one of the big hindrances. But even for the customer, our customer also needs to know what temperature they should serve wine. So for white wine, you should serve it between 9 degrees to 12 degrees Celsius, for and champagne as well around that temperature. For red wines, around 15 to 18 degrees Celsius. And you need proper glassware also to enjoy it. And then, so that's the problem with wine as well, is you need a little bit of that knowledge to appreciate. It's like learning cricket. A lot of people don't understand cricket because there's so many rules in it. Same thing with wine. Once you understand it, then you'll fall in love with it, because it is a little complex, yes, but once you catch on to it, you will understand why people are so addicted to it and can spend millions and millions of dollars on wine. And no one will do that for whiskey, no one will do that for vodka, no one will do that for tequila. There's a certain art to wine, and definitely India is, I would say, maybe in a decade or so, we will be definitely competing. But it has a long way to go. But better join now than never.
Yes, thank you so much. Well said. As you know that we know the old world wines and the new world wine countries. And as a sommelier, you know that 50% of the wines in the world global wine market comes from France, Italy, and Spain. So, as a sommelier point of view, what are the new countries challenging these old countries in the future? China is producing wine, and Argentina is also producing great wines. Chile. So, what are the new countries, or in the future, would be the more challenge for these three old countries? Over to you, sir.
Yes. So very nice question. So the world of wine was dominated by the old world wines. Old world wines meaning European countries. They dominated for the longest time, and then there came a tasting in the 60s, the late 60s, I believe. It was called the Judgment of Paris, where they took some wines from America, California mainly, and they did a blind tasting and they mixed it up with some big French wines from Burgundy and Bordeaux. And all these people, the people on the judging panel, they were all French. And once they tasted the wine, they unanimously chose the American wine as a better wine, and they had no idea it was a blind tasting competition, and they were shocked. So, and that one tasting really changed the whole industry for new world wines. So all countries outside of Europe are called new world wine. And then basically the whole wine industry, the customers start asking for some wines from America, and then suddenly the market just blew up. It's really, so it's all stuck in your head that French wine is the best, or Italian wine or German Riesling is the best. There's some outstanding wines coming out now. So America is definitely leading the way in terms of wine quality. They have a huge land, they have some outstanding wine in Oregon, Pinot Noirs. They have some good Chardonnays there. Napa Valley has all sorts of grape, but the Cabernet Sauvignons are very good. South America, one of my favorite wines comes from Chile. It's called Purple Angel by Montes in Chile, and it's made from this grape Carmenere, and it's beautiful, like outstanding. So the difference in terms of flavor, so people who don't understand, what is the difference between flavored from old world and new world? Old world wines are not so fruity. They're more earth centric. They're more have taste of grass, mushroom, meat, wood, mud, some little chemicals, sort of a taste, but it comes out well. I don't want to discourage people from that. Whereas basically the New World wines are very fruit centric. Dark red apples, strawberries, licorice, cherries, green apple, this melon. It's very fruit centric. So there's something for everything, and so it was very important for the world of wine for that the New World, which is more warmer climate, really improves its quality, and that's what's happening. So Chile is definitely doing very, very well. A lot of French winemakers have went and bought land over there in Chile. And then they're producing some outstanding wines, or expensive wines as well. Australia, of course, is also making some outstanding wines. Just went there recently in Yarra Valley as well. They have some outstanding wines. The beauty of Australia is that they are closer to India and China market than the Europeans are. So they have lesser problems. That's why Jacobs Creek and Penfolds, all of them were present in the market before anyone else. So definitely it's going to be a very interesting world. Right now, most of the demand is coming from China. China is very hooked onto the wine bug, and we have a very and so most of the wine prices in Bordeaux in France has skyrocketed 40 times, 20 times because of the demand just from China. And India is still yet to get there because the wine bug hasn't come to us yet. But there's a trend with every country which has a growing income. Wine demand will also invariably grow over there as well. It's just about education. So China went through that whole process of being educated by a lot of visiting sommeliers, and one thing which really resonated with them was the color red. So they found gifting a bottle of red wine to someone as equal to gifting luck to someone. So that really caught on with people. In India, because of our climatic conditions, we are still a very whiskey focused country. We are the largest whiskey consumers in the world. But there is definitely a chance over here. But yeah, just to answer your question, I think Chile is definitely going to lead the way. Argentina's Malbecs are outstanding. They will also do well. New Zealand, outstanding white wines coming from their Sauvignon Blancs as well. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing such a knowledge about wines and new world wines and old world wines and the wines of India, everything. So we will let us come out from the wines. Of course, you are familiar. You love to talk about more wines. We understand. Being an executive director at Trans Hotels and Resorts, so how do you handling this pandemic time, this lockdown period? Sir? So we want to hear from your experience and your strategies, how you're following.
Yeah. So yes, it has been a very, very difficult time for anyone in any industry, and especially hotel industry right now. This time has been very difficult because our entire industry depends on people meeting, people mingling, and people meeting in banquets, people coming in hotel rooms, and people coming to restaurants. So now when a virus comes where if you're just next to someone, you don't even have to be touching them and you can catch a virus. That's going to be real difficult. But having said that, the tourism, so you have to understand there's a hotel industry and there's a tourism industry. The hotel industry does not need the tourism industry. It can survive without it as well, because we still have meetings, banquets, and we still have inbound tourism as well, people within India coming for meetings and all. So hotels can still survive, but the tourism industry cannot survive without hotel industry. If you want people to come to Agra, see the Taj Mahal, but there's no hotels, so no one will spend the night over there. So the same thing. So the hotel industry still has a strong backbone. People still have money. It's not like people don't have money and don't want to spend it. Actually, if you notice, when the government eased the rules for liquor, people came out in long kilometer long lines just to buy alcohol. So the Indian customer, I feel, isn't really discouraged. It's what's happening is terrible, yes, but I think what we had to do with Trans Hotels, of course. So our resort hotel, we had to shut down because we got the government directive saying you have to shut down. Our other city-based hotel, we had some customers over there, so we opened, but now they've just checked out. So it's difficult. The problem is that because you're a commercial building, some places you still have to pay certain people their salaries now. You can't, because there's no revenue coming in now. What do you do? And it's not only like less revenue, this is like zero. So it's very, very challenging. So some people had to take pay cuts, and it's not been easy. Even from our side, we had to let go of our management fees in quite a lot of cases. But we know that these are unique times. These are very, very unique times, and what can one do? We have to just come up with new strategies on what to do, how to make the customer feel more at ease. So we had to come up with ideas. So what is the main focus right now? Hygiene. Come up with new rules on how to handle certain touch points. Room service, will people still be okay with the person coming inside the room? No, probably we can leave the trays outside. Laundry, how do we handle that? Handshakes, no more handshakes. Buffets are going to go away slowly. So what do? You either have a staff over there serving everyone food, uh, and lifts, when everyone goes to a lift and presses a button, what are you going to do about that? You cover it. Certain places they give you a toothpick just to poke it. There are a lot of these things going on as well. So and the thing is, with hotels, you get people from all over the world coming and staying. So it's not only India focused. So but what can someone do? People still want to do business, and what we're also seeing right now with Zoom as well, the app now, more people are just saying, you know what, I'll rather have a meeting. I don't need to fly halfway around the country to have this meeting and spend a night in 3 nights in a hotel. So these are difficult times. Yes, we was, the hotel industry was slowly going up. Our room rates were improving, our occupancy rates were improving. It was looking good. A lot of hotels were under construction and consultancy projects also coming along. Indians were thinking big. Our architecture was improving as well. We were on a good track. It's come at a difficult time, but I'm not going to lie. But I'm sure we will come out of this. And I'm being optimistic as well, because Indians, in the end, we have a set target, and it's not like we're going to change our consumer habits. We will be more careful, yes. Main focus for all hotel companies will have to be to emphasize on hygiene. And what are we doing? It has to become a main focus on social media. It has to be, and then what do we do about our costs? So unfortunately, it's not going to be the best time for hiring a lot of staff. So there's going to be a lot of cuts as well. But I think hopefully, and give it by November, we should be back to normal industry wise. But a lot of hotel owners and everyone has realized that it's not their focus on profit anymore. It's more on surviving. There will be some people shutting down. There'll be a lot of restaurants shutting down. There'll be some hotels going under. It is a difficult time, but it's a difficult time for everyone. No one is doing well, absolutely no. Besides maybe the odd person making hand sanitizer, everyone else is doing bad. But we're in this together, and I think we'll come out hopefully by this November.
Yes, well said. Yes, of course, we are witnessing something which never happened before. This very difficult time for everyone, not only hospitality industry, entire industry being struck, and it's the worst hit to especially hospitality industry and aviation tourism industry. We are come to the conclusion of this session, and before we finish, I would like to have two more questions. The last two questions, which we want to ask you. What would be the different aspects of safety would be implemented once we open the hotel? What are the safety? Already we have some safety precautions. We are following it, but once we open the hotels, we have to live a new normal life. So, what are the strategies would be followed to retain the customers, and what are the basic safety precautions would be followed, and sanitation, hygienic in all the ways? How you will convince the customer, because customer behavior should also be changed. So, how would you convince the customer, and what are the safety measurements will be followed once we open the hotels?
So we're already getting some few directives from the government already. It's not 100% yet, but what's happening is they're saying we have to do stricter disinfection of luggage coming in. There will be a mandatory temperature check for anyone coming in. Biometrics for all staff, that has to go out. We have to go back to manual. Um, so those are the few things. Like I said, buffets will be affected. Room service will definitely be affected. Laundry will be affected. And the problem is that room rates will unfortunately, in order to handle this, room rates will be a touch and go with the, but let's see what happens in that. But yeah, in terms of rules and regulations, there definitely be much more tighter screening happening. It's required, I understand, because last thing you want is a waiter to get infected and come and then infect another 60 people, so you need this particular checks and balances happening as well. But I think it's much needed as well, because I've noticed sometimes in Hyderabad especially, if you leave a used tissue paper on the table, the staff is cleaning, he'll just pick up with his bare hands. So imagine the staff has no idea, what do I have, and then he will go and so the hygiene in a lot of hotels, and I worked in the best of the hotels also in Switzerland and wherever, hygiene in the back of the house has unfortunately not been good. Definitely not been good. uh, I've even with Four Seasons, unfortunately, I didn't see any insanely very good hygiene also in the back of the house. A lot of places need deep cleaning and screening of the staff. And we have to also come up with new regulations for our staff as well, as to if you're sick. So a lot of staff, we'd like to think that, oh, I'm not sick, oh, I just have a cold, it's fine. But now if you have a cold, you might potentially be also carrying something, so that's also a little risky as well. So all these new regulations will come out. It's definitely going to be very tricky, but it's necessary as well, because last thing, and we don't know if is coronavirus dying out, or will there be a second wave or a third wave. It's right now everyone's in limbo.
Thank you. Yes, well said, sir. And the last question of the day, we are not taking too much time. So many of our students have joined hotel management or hospitality course to become a general manager or to become executive chef or executive housekeeper or front office manager. So there are few students who want to become an entrepreneur. So being your entrepreneur, what are the basic qualities a student should have to become an entrepreneur? Over to
Okay.
you, sir.
Yes. Yeah. So this is a very good question, because when I started from hotel school, I wanted to just be a GM. That was my main focus in life, was just to be GM, and GM with Four Seasons. Started off well. My own HR organization told me, yes, we are putting on the fast track to be a GM. You have a GM personality. I was very happy. The problem with the hotel industry is that they believe in a very long process of going up the ladder. So they say, oh, you can't be a restaurant manager until you're 29 at least. Okay, I became restaurant manager at 26, but still. And then they said, oh, you can't be F&B manager until you're 35 at least. So they had all these rules. Oh, you can't be GM until you're 38, 39. So all these rules came out, and you're like, okay. So, but the problem is also, you've spent nowadays, if you see hotel schools fees as well, especially if you go to Switzerland, if you're spending that much money and then you go to a hotel and you're making bare minimum amount, and you have to do this for 15 years until you see some real money being made. The world is not cheap. If you really want to earn some money, passion can keep you for a certain while, but if you have to handle a family and you have to handle expectations and be on level with your peers, you have to also keep on going up. So the hotel industry has these problems, which definitely is a problem. But now it slowly is changing. There are some companies which are also promoting people young and motivated right there. So it's good as well, because the industry in the 70s and 80s, it was mainly people who were bad at studies used to join hotels. That's why people were okay with that. Today, it's not the case. Today, a lot of people who are in the 90 percenters, 80 percenters in school who join hotels as well. Problem with hotels is you have to work with your hands, and you have to say goodbye to your life. You have to say 14 hours, 12 hours, and that's normal. You have to put in that time, because a hotel is a team. If you go into the hotel with the mindset of, oh, I'm just working my 9 hours, I'm sorry, my shift is over. you will not progress in life. You have to really show your team that I don't mind working 14 hours, I don't mind doing this, I don't mind working 6 days a week, I don't mind working 12 days in a row, because a lot of problems come along, where your staff calls out sick, or you're short staff, or there's a big group check-in. So all these things, they came for me. I basically felt there was an opportunity for me to really, because if my father was retiring and I really wanted to get into business, and the whole industry, the whole idea got to me that why don't you be your own boss? So I said, this idea is killing me. It's just really in my head. And I don't want to live my life with this regret that what if, what if I give it a shot? If I give it a shot and if I fail in business, no problem. I can always go back and get a job with the hotel industry. I know I can do that, but I want to try entrepreneurship. So it was a big leap, and leaving Four Seasons, and I was getting offered to join Four Seasons in Hawaii, and I could have become very closer to becoming an American citizen there. A lot of people said, why don't you just do that? I said, no, I don't see that. I want to start a business. I want to see what comes out of it. And especially in India, like, a lot of us don't realize how lucky we are to be born in India right now. We have a market, and this is a, and you don't need to blame the government or anything like that for anything. You need to start your own business. You don't need anyone's support. You can do it. The system is there, and we can set up a business. It is not a problem, but you have to have a well thought out business. So the problem is, our generation, unfortunately, we are very impatient, and entrepreneurship and patience go hand in hand. If you expect to make a crore profit in the first 18 months, no, it's not going to happen. It's very, that few 1% who actually make that in the first 18 months. So a lot of times you need patience. You need to plan properly. You need business strategy. There are many great businessmen in India, especially, who've not gone to any MBAs or any particular schools. They've just done it based on knowledge and patience. They know that if you start a business and you've given it 3 years and you've not made enough money, or you're just barely breaking even, and you give up, so that's not enough patience. You have to give a good amount of time, and you have to give. So that's the thing. There's pros and cons to each. There are a lot of pros to being in entrepreneurship. You don't need have a boss. You don't need to ask for permission to take your day off or whatever. You can decide your own hours, but you have some real responsibilities. If you default on a payment, you might lose your house. You might have some real serious financial issues. Are you So you have to really plan. You have to be a master of accounts and numbers if you want to get into finance, and if you want to get into entrepreneurship. You can't just go in with no strategy on how to pay the bills. You have to have a very tight strategy on that, and you have to have some real hard work put in over there. Whereas now, also in the hotel industry, now if money making is your main focus, hotel industry is now paying well. There are certain hotel GMs which are making 7 lakhs, 8 lakhs a month. So that's a lot more money than I'm making right now as an entrepreneur, to be honest. But for me, my passion is driving me. We are also running it. That's not a problem. But it is definitely, you have to see what keeps you happy. Because for me, I saw my life and I said, I can make good money, but I don't want to work 13, 14 hours a day in different parts of the world with zero family life, not being in touch with my friends. And this makes no sense to me. I'd rather make bare basic minimum income, but do something what I love. And I've seen it also. If you really do something which you're passionate about, like the wine industry, like the wine society, I did not start it to make money. I solely started it because I wanted people to learn more about wine. Because I would go to parties and I would see people serving a very expensive bottle of Chateau Margaux and putting ice cubes in it. So I said, are you serious? Like, you do not understand what you're doing with with this particular wine. So I just did it with that. Now, because of 2 years of me pushing for the wine society, it's now opportunities have opened up. There's so many more opportunities where you can make good money out of it. So a lot of people should just basically make a plan. See, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I completely agree. It's not for everyone. You need patience, and you need to have a strong financial backbone to understand. If you're very tight with money, think it through. There's no harm in spending your 20s doing different things and understanding what you want to do. If you just immediately start off at age 21, 22 starting a business, that's risky. I would not do that. Go out, learn from the industry, understand what hard work means. Don't complain. Don't switch jobs every 6 months, 9 months. That's a very bad habit our industry is doing. They're just going out, and I see a CV of a 27-year-old and it's 6 pages long because he's just gone to every company. That's wrong. You have to be loyal to a company. Each company at least minimum 24, 30 months. You have to give it 2 years. So you'll understand the work culture. You'll understand what's happening. Try and get a promotion in the same company. Don't get bored so easily. And you will see that money will come eventually and experience will also come. But with entrepreneurship, have a very detailed plan. Don't just think that, oh, my business is going to be outstanding. There'll be a line outside on day one. No, there is no such thing. Business is a very tricky subject. You have to have a lot of patience. Patience, I'm talking in terms of 4 years, 5 years, 9 years, until you really start seeing some good money. But once you do get it, you will be very happy. Of course, life of an entrepreneur, I would say, is better than a hotelier. I have no regrets becoming an entrepreneur, but patience. If I went with the impatience, saying I'm not Steve Jobs yet, why am I not Steve Jobs yet? You won't succeed. It's not possible.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Singh. It's a 7:43. We wish the session should go on. So, but I know we are, in this condition, in this situation, you'll be very busy. And thank you so much for taking your time and spent with us. You talked about wine industry. You talked about Indian wines. You talked about current scenario, the strategies, what trans hotels are doing, everything. Thank you so much. A lot of insights we had today. This would be great knowledge and wisdom for our students. Before we end up, Supriya, you want to say something?
Oh, yes. Surya, it's pleasure to see you, man, after a long time. And sir, I mean, I know Surya, it's been almost 2 years, Surya, from this Hyderabad Wine Society. He's a huge passion. He's having huge passion on wine. He's like an ocean of knowledge. And it's pleasure listening to you again. And yes, you have to promise us. I mean, you have to keep, coming online and share your knowledge. Sir, I mean, thank you so much for getting Surya online today.
Yes.
And it's a definitely huge insight on wine and definitely about other things. The whole point about joining industry and entrepreneurship. Thank you so much, Surya. Looking forward to meet you very soon.
Yes. So Supriyo actually was one of the very few first people who came to our wine dinners. He had come to our second dinner and came for many more after that. So we got a good chance to get to know each other. And Supriyo, also, you're doing a great job spreading the beauty of service and culture. It's very few people like you right now in the industry. And it's good. Keep on being passionate about whatever you guys are doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, we wish you to